Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we're going to be answering the question. I think this was posted by C9 Gotham, so shout out to him. What's the best confusion user? I purposely didn't include Giraffe Ray because it's a different type, both figuratively and literally. So we're taking a look at Cresselia, Gallade, Bronzong, and Claydol, and as the title entails, they're all going to have the fast move Confusion. Let's first take a look at their stats. Cresselia is by far the tankiest of the four, with an incredible spread. 91 attack, 92 attack, 163 at optimize. Followed by Claydol being second, which is a very tanky Pokemon, almost at a Azumarill level tankiness. And then we follow by Bronzong, which is similar to like Meganium or Blastoise, would still considered a pretty bulky Pokemon. And then we have the Glass Cannon of the group, Gallade, with a 134 attack, which is very high, and 119 and 104, and it's quite a glassy Pokemon. So Cresselia, by far the tankiest, and certainly one of its big advantages when it comes to itself as a Pokemon. In terms of the Pokemon I'm going to be analyzing against, this is the full list. This is just so I can control what moveset I'm going up against, just so I don't make the same mistake I did in the Hex versus Feint Attack, even though I think I covered that a little bit, but I didn't explicitly cover the Poliwrath matchup. So I want to avoid that mistake. So here are the Pokemon, and here are the movesets. The only one that might be kind of weird is Lugia. I chose to put Dragon Tail instead of Extrasensory. I think there's certainly a debate on either one, and for Dusclops I included Feint Attack instead of Hex, but I don't think it makes a huge difference. It may make a difference in one particular matchup, so we're going to be taking a look at that. So we're going to take a look at the Zero Shield scenario. Cresselia is going to have Moonblast, Aurora Beam. Bronzong is going to have Psybeam. Or it's actually Psyshock. Oh man, okay. Well, regardless, Psyshock and Bulldoze, not Psybeam. Claydol is gonna have Gyro Ball and Earth Power, and then Gallade is gonna have Leaf Blade and Close Combat. So Cresselia has in the Zero Shield scenario has a 64.7 win percentage against the Pokemon that I had listed out, and it picks up some notable wins against Medicham. And you might be asking why I'm including that, but I'll show you in a little bit. Bronzong, Claydol, Gallade, Dusclops, and Drifblim and Lugia. So that's actually a really good spread in the Zero Shield scenario. It even beats two of the prominent Ghost Pokemon in the Zero Shield scenario by effectively Moonblasting them and being able to survive Shadow Ball and Shadow Punches from Dusclops. I'm not sure if that matchup flips when it gets Hex, but it would still be fairly close regardless. So that's actually a really good spread. It beats the other Psychic Pokemon, and that's purely because of Cresselia's tankiness and able to absorb opposing Pokemon's charge moves, while these Pokemon are not able to absorb Cresselia's charge moves. When it looks at Bronzong, it does pick up the Bastion matchup, which Cresselia does not. It does pick up the Gallade matchup and picks the Mawile matchup. Again, with that Bulldoze, it allows it to hit for super effective damage against Mawile, especially when shields are down. That's going to be super valuable. Well, Claydol has a 58.8% win percentage, and Bronzong actually notably does not pick up the Medicham matchup. I actually think it's a CMP tie against Medicham, so that's something worth noting. Well, Claydol picks up the Medicham matchup, the Gallade matchup, also picks up the Bastion matchup, picks up the Bronzong matchup because it's able to deal super effective damage with Earth Power. It picks up the Alolan Marowak matchup, which is huge because Alolan Marowak is probably at this point in time the third most popular Ghost, but certainly is going to be on a lot of people's teams, and picks up the Mawile matchup. And while Gallade picks up the Medicham matchup, picks up the Bronzong matchup, and then as well picks up the Mawile matchup. So as you can see, they have all slightly different spreads, but shields down, it does look like Cresselia has the best coverage against the most prominent meta-defining Pokemon. In the one shield matchup, Cresselia has a 35.3% win percentage, picking up the Medicham, Claydol, and Gallade matchup, while Bronzong has a 52.9% and the highest of the four, picking up the Medicham matchup, the Bronzong, Gallade, actually picking up the Cresselia matchup with that steel typing and cheaper charge moves. It's able to. It might be a little bit different, and there might be some baiting involved in that. It picks up the Gardevoir matchup, which the rest of them don't, and also picks up the Banette matchup. Banette probably the fourth or fifth, probably fifth most popular ghost Pokemon. Fringe meta, but you might see some use around Banette. While Claydol has a 41.2%, picks up the Gallade matchup, picks up Bronzong matchup, picks up the Bastion matchup, and also picks up the Banette matchup. And while Gallade, but Claydol notably loses to Medicham, and that's even if it just straight ice punches Claydol. So no baiting involved. While Gallade picks up the Medicham matchup, the Bastion matchup, and notably the Steel matchup. But in Gallade as well, I didn't want to include it because I've included in every graphic. It loses to Girafarig, and that makes sense because it is a fighting psychic Pokemon. So those confusion damage are neutral to it. But picking up the Steelix matchup is very big, and Steelix is going to be one of the top three most commonly used Pokemon in Sinister Cup. So that's not something necessary to sleep on. In the Teal Shield matchup, Cresselia and Bronzong tie at 47.1%, and Cresselia picks up the Claydol matchup, the Gallade, the Banette, the Lugia, and the Medicham matchup, while Bronzong, and it's the only one that picks up the Medicham matchup in 2 shields, and wins that matchup like fairly consistently, while Bronzong again picks up the Bastion matchup, picks up the Gallade matchup, picks up the Cresselia matchup, which is good, and the Lugia and Banette matchup. So slightly different coverage. You're basically trading Medicham and Bastion and Claydol, and these are both like kind of like, as Hero of Age would say, side grades for their respective types. So which is interesting to look at. Claydol allows you to pick up the Gallade matchup. Everyone beats up on Gallade. All those other second users beat up on Gallade. Picks up the Bastion, the Bronzong, and the Banette matchup, while Gallade still consistently wins against Bronzong and Steelix, and loses to Girafarig again. So these are like pretty good coverage. These Pokemon have like pretty decent matchups. There's certainly the Psychic typing is could you run without Psychic? Maybe, but you would have a hard time checking Poliwrath, which is what the Psychic types are probably most used for, at least confusion users. You could get away with running other types of Pokemon, non-confusion users like Medicham or like a Lugia to try to check a Poliwrath, but these confusion users are also really great, and some of them have like different flex options. So we're going to look at that in the conclusion. So Cresselia is the best closer. When shields are down, it's able to even beat some of the notable ghost Pokemon. Two of the arguably most popular picks in Dusclops and Drifblim. And then as well beats all fighters in all scenarios except for Lucario in the one shield with a bait. But that's a pretty iffy matchup, to be honest. While Bronzong and Claydol are pretty similar. They beat Bastion, and they beat like similar type of Pokemon, but but Claydol does beat Bastion a little bit more consistently than Bronzong, but Claydol is also able to pick up the Bronzong matchup, while Bronzong can win versus Lugia and Cresselia. So if you're looking at that and taking that into consideration, while Gallade is the weakest of the four from a pure Psychic type Pokemon, it's the weakest. It loses to pretty much all other Psychic and Confusion users. But does pick up one very important matchup, which is the Steelix matchup in the 1 and 2 shields. So what's the best? It depends on what you need. If you want a good closer that can flip some matchups against its worse type, then Cresselia is really great, but it's going to get completely walled by the steel tanks, Steelix and Bastiodon, while Bronzong and Claydol are able to beat Bastiodon and at least put up a decent fight against Steelix, while Gallade is kind of on the other extreme of Cresselia, where it very much specializes more so in beating the steel tanks, and then they all beat Poliwrath for the most part. I'm sure there's some exceptions with like Hydro Pump against Claydol, but I'm sure Poliwrath still loses to all these confusion users. But it does have, so you get that check mark, which I think is the most important role of these psychic Pokemon, is to beat Poliwrath, which is the #1 Pokemon in the Sinister Cup. But Gallade is able to beat the steel tanks as well. So if you're looking for that kind of coverage, then it's really great, and that's something that Cresselia can't do at all. And Gallade does better than Bronzong and Claydol. So I would also imagine seeing effective teams of 6 that include 2 of these 4. I wouldn't include more than 2, to be honest, but they're really interesting picks. So hopefully that's helpful. There's not a definitive conclusion, but I'm gonna leave it there. If you guys like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what else you want me to cover in regards to the Sinister Cup. And I'll see everyone in the next video.